Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. Welcome to our chapter meeting. This is the Los Angeles chapter of the Hearing Loss Association of America, and we're happy to have you here this morning. And we have a wonderful presentation for you. Um, Dr. Juliëtte Sterkens is here with us. She's a very um, experienced audiologist out of Wisconsin, and she's going to share her information regarding assistive listening systems, specifically Auracast and T-coils, and we should be duly informed once she has finished sharing her information with us. So without further ado, uh, Dr. Juliëtte Sterkens, thank you for being here.
Hey, I'm excited to be here. And because you are 2 hours later than I am, I was able to go to the farmer's market, folks. And, you know, oh, you know what's happening? I can't share at this moment. Tim, if you're still there, um, I lost that ability suddenly.
Try now.
Okay, I'm going to try it now. It's working. Excellent. And I'm going to do from the beginning, and I'm going to turn my subtitles off. I learned something this morning. I'm very excited that you're all here, and it looks like I need to just change my camera. Can everybody see me okay? Then we're going to get going. I've got a boatload of slides, lots of information, and I'm happy to share slides at the end of the presentation. If you're interested, we're going to talk about Telecoils and Auracast, but I'm also going to give you background information as to why you can't hear everything, even with the best of hearing aids. This is my background. I moved here from the Netherlands. I've been in this profession for ages. And I do lots of lectures around the country, teach audiology students. And if you know of a program that needs a guest lecturer, I'm your woman, not man. And this is a shameless plug. I've done a TEDx talk, and for those of you who are watching this kind of stuff, I'm nearing 1 million views, so everybody who watches it just keeps ticking. These little QR codes, if you point your camera at the QR code, it'll take you to the TEDx lecture that I did about 1.5 years ago. And this is a little bit of background. And the reason, for those of you who know me and my husband, we do a lot of travel, and that's because these two cuties live in Australia, as does our daughter, and our son lives in the Netherlands. So, we have to go places in order to see them. And I have a mom who's going to turn 99. And then my husband's hobby is photography. It's eclipse photography, and that literally takes us around the world because eclipses happen all over this earth, but only a couple a year, and we'd like to see at least one a year if we can. So here's a very brief outline of what I'm going to be talking about today. Why do you need hearing access? We're going to talk about Bluetooth LE audio or Auracast used as an assistive listening system. We're going to talk a little bit about current assistive listening systems, but I'm going to assume that many of you already have this knowledge. Talk a little bit about future-proofing yourself if you're in the market for new hearing aids or a new cochlear implant processor, and some resources. So I'm going to dive right in a little bit older, single-blinded study about hearing aids. That study never got a lot of attention in the audiology world. It did, but it wasn't really published in the typical audiology journals. It was published in I think, the Journal of Gerontology. And they found in this single-blind study that there was no significant difference between the performance of basic and premium hearing aids in a whole slew of self-report measures, not putting you in a test room and measuring something very specifically, but how do you think you are doing with these hearing aids? Right? And these are the conclusions, and I just copied them verbatim, and I think they are important. It could be reasonably asserted that the patient's perspective is the gold standard. In other words, it doesn't matter what your audiologist shows how well your hearing aid is doing on paper. Is the hearing aid doing what you want or need it to do? And what the researchers said is that acoustical processing, the processing that's happening in your hearing aid, cochlear implants, or your hearing aids, because of these premium features, can improve scores on tests conducted under very specific conditions, contrived conditions, or on very specific questions on a questionnaire, but it doesn't ensure noteworthy benefit when the hearing aids are used in real world situations. They further concluded that if the evidence suggests that the patient can't detect that premium features yield improvements over basic features in daily life, then what is the responsibility of a provider in recommending hearing aid technology? All right. The researchers made two recommendations that further studies be done with a larger sample, because these were only 45 people, and that self-report measures were preferable, in other words, questionnaires were preferable to laboratory tests. Now, this is my opinion. This is not HLAA's opinion, but it's my opinion that the hearing industry wants you, and the hearing industry includes the cochlear implant industry, wants you to believe that it's all about hearing aid technology. And yes, hearing aid technology makes some difference to some users. And here are the differences. Premium hearing aids may sound better, make your own voice sound better. Premium hearing aids may allow you to hear better one-on-one, and they are slightly better in small groups. But there's no difference between basic and premium hearing instruments in large groups, restaurants, or cafe situations. I want to let that sink in because I'm sure you've seen all the advertisements. And surprisingly, basic hearing aids give users a better ability to localize, to tell where sound is coming from, your right or your left, the front, behind you, whatever. And this is literally a follow-up study by Dr. Susan Clutterbuck, and she's in Australia, of all places. So I've had a chance to meet with her, and I hope to meet with her again in August. And I apologize for this kind of blurry slide because I copied this straight from her paper, and her paper is right here. And I think Tim is going to try and put this in the chat. And there's a lot to unpack here. I'm not going to go over every detail, but on the side is satisfaction, hearing aid satisfaction. Blue, there are 1,500 consumers who rated their basic technology. And don't get me wrong, when I say basic, 10 years ago, they would have been top of the line hearing aids, all right? But basic technology are the blue bars, and they rate satisfaction in a number of features of the hearing aid, volume adjustments, how visible they are, his battery life. And then the red bars are over 300 users of premium hearing aids. Where there are little stars is where the hearing aids vary significantly different in hearing aid satisfaction. So for visibility, premium hearing aids rated better. For ongoing expense, basic hearing aids rated better. Battery life, basic hearing aids were better. Sound of own voice, premium hearing aids were slightly better. But if you eyeball this, there's really not a big difference between basic and premium hearing aids on this bar, and none of them reach 100% satisfaction. All right? How did Dr. Clutterbuck evaluate these hearing aids? She used a personal assessment of communication abilities, a questionnaire. And the consumer filled out in the questionnaire how they did in quiet, how they did in noise, indoor, outdoor, movies, in the car, you name it. And that's how they determined the satisfaction rate of the user. Now we get to the meat of her study, and that is, how do users of basic and premium hearing aids like their hearing aids in a number of listening situations? All right. Again, the little stars indicate that there is a statistically significant difference in performance with how the hearing aids do one-on-one. So the basic hearing aids versus the premium hearing aid. The premium hearing aid was a little bit better in one-on-one situations. The premium hearing aid was a little bit better in small groups. Both hearing aids do pretty poorly in large groups. And again, in church and in a lecture, the premium hearing aids did a little bit better. But eyeball this, you kind of squint your eyes, these bars are all pretty close together. And the difference between the 80% and 100%, this is because hearing aids can't give you normal hearing. All right? So what Dr. Clutterbuck and what Sergei Kochkin years ago already have said, people are more satisfied with their hearing aids in the more situations that the hearing aids benefit them. And these are the different situations that Dr. Clutterbuck used in her study. And then they allowed the consumer to give a ratings of, I have no trouble one-on-one, I have slight difficulty, moderate, quite a lot, very much, or it's not relevant. So it's a 5-point Likert scale for those of you who are interested in that. So hearing aid success is highly correlated with the ability to successfully use your hearing aids or implants in a variety of listening situations. And that term has been dubbed MELU, multiple environmental listening utility. Some very interesting studies and papers written on that if you're interested. Back to Susan Clutterbuck, who then asked the question, so what's more important? Is the hearing aid more important, or is the provider more important? And it turns out that her evidence suggests, and remember, she had almost 2,000 hearing aid users in that study, that the outcome is much less related to the client's age or degree of hearing loss or the technology level of the hearing aid. It is almost all related to the provider. All right. So the top 10 clinics in Australia who allowed their patients to complete a survey by Dr. Clutterbuck, their patients had a hearing aid satisfaction rating between 62 and 83%. That's these 10 clinics, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. These are the clinics. They get very high satisfaction rating. The bottom 10 clinics could have been the same hearing aids, mind you, have a hearing aid satisfaction rating of 37 to 60%. Which clinic do you want to go to? So as of late, I've been very much on a mission to educate consumers that it is not about the hearing aid. It is not about the processor. It's about the provider. All right? So why do hearing aid and cochlear implant users need more than hearing aids? Or why don't their hearing aids do enough? It's because even the clients with the highest levels of satisfaction, so if you like your hearing aids 83%, and by the way, there are people who love their hearing aids 95%. But if you average it out, you get the best clinics have an average of 83% hearing aid satisfaction. 83% is not 100%. And I'm all about trying to get you to a higher hearing aid satisfaction rating. All right? What does improve outcomes? It's providers who follow best practices. And that would be a whole other lecture. And I'm not going to dive into that other than give you this slide and show you that getting hearing aids requires a whole slew of consistently following services so that we touch base on every aspect of your hearing aid, of the hearing aid fitting, of the verification, of the validation, of the quality control, testing your processor, testing your hearing aid, making sure that it's doing what the computer on paper or on the screen says it's doing. And one of the most important things in that process is real ear measurements. Could be another great lecture. And this is page 2 of the best practices. There's handouts to be had on that. I don't have them in this presentation. But we can always get to that later. And I don't know why my mouse is putting little blue marks on the screen, but it is. Are you seeing the blue marks on the screen too? Great. Well, just imagine my 2-year-old got a hold of a blue pencil. What can I say? How can I get rid of this? Okay. I think I cleared it, but I don't think I can get rid of it. Anyway, so if providers don't follow best practices, outcomes suffer. And this is another whole study, could be another half-hour lecture. I'm not going to dive into that, but only to say that if your provider follows a lot of best practices, the hearing aid satisfaction is pretty high. If your provider does not follow best practices, doesn't do real ear, doesn't verify the performance of hearing aids, hearing satisfaction is significantly lower. And if you tally all of that data up, that results in hearing handicap improvement of, with the best providers, of about 70-75%. That's why consumers with hearing loss need assistive technology. All right? So hearing handicap improvement never reaches 100%. I'm going to just quick log out and see if I can get rid of these.
Maybe just unshare and share.
Would that work?
Well, are you seeing it on your own
Yeah,
screen?
I'm seeing it on my screen too. Stop share. I must have done this lecture 1,000 times, and this is the first time I've ever had this happen. So share. Hey. Ta-da, it's gone. And I made the pointer color white. So I don't think it's going to happen again. All right. So to hear your best, you need assistive technology. And especially for those of you who go through life wearing occluding ear molds or wear cochlear implants, because those of you who wear occluding ear molds and cochlear implants go through life hearing the world through microphones on your ears. So hearing aids don't restore hearing to normal. Microphones have a limited range. On average, the typical hearing aid range is about 2-3 arms lengths. Doesn't mean you can't hear further away, but for effective communication, it's about 2 or 3 arms lengths. And just about every hearing aid user will tell you, hearing aids make all sounds louder. So up next, we're going to talk about how can we overcome these hearing aid limitations. I'm going to very briefly talk about personal situations, then we're going to get into the public situations. And great website for hearing aid limitations. If you want to dive into this, this is the place to go. So this comes straight out of my TED Talk. For situations that are important to you, if you watch a lot of TV, in my opinion, you should have a TV amplifier. If you spend a lot of time in the car listening to one person, or you spend a lot of time in places where there's background noise, where you need to hear one person, these remote microphones can be a lifesaver. If you move in circles where you have to constantly focus on different people, the Roger pen is an accessory that lots of people benefit from. And in the state of Wisconsin, DVR has even paid for this type of accessory. And so has the VA, by the way. Table microphones. This is all working through your hearing aids through Bluetooth. For TV, I mentioned it earlier. If you don't have a TV streamer, you're missing out. You're missing out. And you may think that your audiologist is trying to upsell you, because yes, it's another $295. Try eBay. You'll be amazed what you can find on eBay. But if you want to hear TV clear, at least direct in your hearing aids without background noise, that's the way to go. And then if you own hearing aids, but you have two different devices and they are not synced together, so you have a cochlear implant that is not able to communicate with your hearing aid, for example, this option, these Serene TV speakers, are almost like a radio that you can take with you to the kitchen or to your bedroom when you're doing the ironing and still hear television. You can bring that sound closer. The closer the sound, the better you're going to hear. TV soundbar, another great solution for overcoming bad sound on televisions. And last but not least, if your hearing aids have telecoils, a home loop in your TV room can be self-installed. And again, these loop drivers can be found on eBay for very economical prices. And if you want help with that, I'm happy to help you with that. Oh, wrong direction. So these are private situations, and we need to distinguish between what you can do alone at home or with your friends or when you're out and about, or you need to hear the computer or your telephone. That's personal. I'm now going to focus more on public situations, places where you want to hear, and that could be a house of worship, it could be at work, it could be a school auditorium. If you have kids and you want to follow them on a play, it could be at the airport or a tour at a museum. And I'm hoping that everybody who is here has had at least some level of understanding that under the ADA, under the Americans with Disabilities Act, it is mandated that in places where audible communication is integral to the use of the space, a lecture room, for example, audio is super important. And where a PA system is in use, an assistive listening system shall be provided, must be provided. And the different systems that we are currently the most familiar with are FM or radio frequency systems, infrared systems, hearing loops, and there are a few audio over Wi-Fi systems out there. Thank goodness they are rare. They can work in sports clubs and bars where the sound is turned off, but audio over Wi-Fi are not a good solution for assistive listening. And then soon, hopefully soon, Auracast is used as an assistive listening system. And I keep saying that, Auracast ALS, because it's different from Auracast for audio sharing. And we'll get into that. So, Auracast. Auracast can be used two different ways. It can be used for audio sharing. And teens are going to probably love this, because they will be able to share audio from one telephone to as many friends that they have with wireless earbuds, and these friends can then all receive the audio from that phone direct in their earbuds, hearing aids. It will also allow you to go to a sports bar and say, I want to watch this game, or I want to watch basketball, or I want to watch football. As long as you know which TV, you should be able to tune into a particular broadcast, almost like you're choosing Wi-Fi at the moment. That's called audio sharing, and a lot of that will have no live sound. There won't be any sound other than that the sound is being transmitted to wireless earbuds or hearing aids or cochlear implants, as long as they're compatible with Auracast. And then there is Auracast broadcast audio used as part of an assistive listening system. And I'm sorry it's such a long, poor Michelle who has to type this. Auracast broadcast audio used as part of an assistive listening system, and we've abbreviated that to Auracast ALS. And Auracast assistive listening is very different than audio sharing. These systems are hopefully going to be deployed in theaters and lectures and meeting rooms, and it has the potential. I'm getting some audio feedback. Are you getting it too? Okay, it's gone. Wonderful. Thanks, Tim. But we don't know if these Auracast systems will be compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act. We haven't even gone there because really there are so few systems out there and there is no standard yet. So Auracast, there is tremendous potential to improve public listening. Yes, they will most likely be less costly to install than a hearing loop system, which involves the installation of wire, but good microphones and the placement of microphones can be expensive. And that will require AV expertise, an audio engineer. If you're just wanting to hear your television better with an Auracast broadcast in your house, that's one thing. But if it's a theater, that whole system needs to be integrated with the audio system. So yes, the transmitters will be easier to install. It should work. should, the operative word is should, work with different brand hearing aids and cochlear implants? We don't know yet. There have been no tests done, right? It should work with consumer wireless earbuds like JBL and Sennheiser and Sony, and hopefully soon, Apple iPods, but they don't as of yet. And of course, what makes this whole Auracast assistive listening system ecosystem unique, that it will no longer be just hearing aids. I mean, we've all been navel staring at other hearing aid users and cochlear implant users. Now it's going to involve people who walk in the door with their Apple iPods in their pocket, and when the show starts, are going to put these iPods in. So it won't be just a handful of hearing aid users saying the system isn't working. There are potentially going to be a lot more people testing these systems on a regular basis. But, always a but, for those of you who know me, it's one of my favorite things to say. There's always a but. It's very early days, and there are very few Auracast transmitters on the market. It's going to take time. I don't know how long you've been using hearing aids. I mean, there's just so many things that I would like to ask all of you here. And when I'm in a live presentation, I can do that, but it's hard in this type of format. But this could take 3, 4, 5, up to 10 years. Now, the industry wants you to believe it's all going to happen, lickety split. The truth is, it probably won't. It will mean most people will need new hearing aids, new cochlear implants, may need you to buy new cell phones, new laptops, unless you can get a dongle to transmit sound from your computer via that dongle to your hearing aids, buying new TVs. I got a 3,500 TV in my living room. I am not going to be buying a new TV anytime soon. So it's hinging on updating a lot of equipment. And as a consumer advocate, I've pushed, and there is being a lot of pushing being done behind the scenes for a push on the hearing aid button for Auracast, just the way we do to turn on Telecoils, but it hasn't been invented. And if Auracast is too techy, is too tricky, is too hard, because there are 40 Auracast broadcasts happening in your retirement community, it's going to take some time before people get the skills. And my mother, who's 90, almost 99, if I tell her, Mom, we're somewhere where there's a loop, she can find the push button on her hearing aid, there's no way she can handle a smartphone. All right. So that push, I believe, is still worth pushing for. And we need studies, practical, real world studies, because as an audiologist, I've been involved with so many different hearing aid rollouts, and there's always glitches. You may think you're the only one who's experiencing problems with your hearing aids. When you get a brand new model, trust me, behind the scenes, lots of issues. So, what do we need for Auracast ALS, assistive listening, to be available and usable? We need a standard. Now, this morning, I received an email saying that the standard may be developing at a little faster pace than they were anticipating. The anticipated date of issuing of the standard was December 2027. This might be a little earlier that year, but it's a significant amount of time. That means in Europe, in a lot of places where standards are very important for installation, it could be a while before they will see the uptick in these countries. Also, for those of you who have listened to assistive listening, It's important that the right sounds, that the right speech information is transmitted through the assistive listening system. Because I just got an email from somebody who said, I still can't hear in my house of worship, and that's because they were routing all the music and the background noise through the assistive listening system too. Well, then they might as well use their hearing aids. They need a very specific sound mix. That requires audio expertise. These are not just plug and play systems, as much as the industry wants you to believe it is. We find, again, this relates, the third point relates to the push button preference. Consumers like to be able to just push a button, turn a feature on, push the button, turn a feature off. That's not been developed yet. We are also not sure how this is all going to work, whether you'll be able to quickly toggle between hearing Auracast only. Let's say you're in an HLAA meeting, somebody has the microphone, but somebody to your right says something to you. If you don't have the microphone and your hearing aid on, you won't be able to hear that person. You'll be out of touch with what's happening close to you. So how that's all going to work with hearing aids and how you'll be able to use the app, that's all still in development and in flux. We need practical studies. I already mentioned that earlier. We also need to get a real world estimate of what type of latency will be involved with all this audio processing through Auracast. Because when you use an FM system or infrared system, that is almost, or a hearing loop, the time is almost instant. Whereas if you use a digital assistive listening system like audio over Wi-Fi, the delay is huge. With Auracast, it's going to be less, but we don't have a good handle on true numbers yet. And we need an educated user base. You need to know what you're doing. Audiologists need to be told how to teach their patients. This is still a whole process in flux. So the ideal scenario, the one that they want you to believe works, is you walk in, you sit down, and you turn on your earbuds or your hearing aid or your bone-anchored hearing aid or your cochlear implant, as long as it's Auracast compatible. You may need a handshake device, a smartphone, to find the right Auracast stream because there might be another meeting going in the room next door. But, always a but, most likely the scenario for the foreseeable future will be, because most hearing aids are not Auracast compatible, that if an Auracast system is installed, everybody who wears hearing aids and cochlear implants must borrow a receiver from the venue. So Auracast initially is going to function like an FM system, not any different. You walk into the theater, you go to the service desk, you pick up your Auracast receiver. If you have telecoils, you ask for the neck loop receiver. If you don't have telecoils, you wear your headphones. If you don't have hearing aids, period, you may be able to directly use your own earbuds. But for hearing aid users, you will need to pick up a receiver with a neck loop for your hearing aid. So these three users, because their hearing aids are not directly compatible, need to have receivers. And the receivers for one particular brand look like this. Now, if you followed what's happening with Auracast, you're going to read, oh, Auracast was installed in Sydney. Whoa, the first theater to install Auracast. This was in February or March. It transformed the Sydney Opera House, right? A world first. Talk about a lot of marketing and a lot of rah, rah, rah. Here's the truth. It was only installed in two small side theaters, number one. And all the people who attended had to go to a service desk and pick up a smartphone and iPods or hearing aids from the Resound company in order to participate in this world premiere, because very, very few people walked into the facility wearing native Auracast compatible hearing aids. This is the picture. Look what they were using. They were using a receiver, right? And they were in room 1 with their receiver. They're easy to use, they're very intuitive. I've used them. And look what else they had on the other table. You had to go pick up a receiver. Here's the receiver. And you had to pick up headphones. The very thing that we've been fighting against, because we've been recommending hearing loops and you don't need to wear headphones, is exactly what they were doing in the Sydney Opera House. And this is the signage in the Sydney Opera House. Join with your Auracast enabled hearing aid and we have receivers. So essentially it's an FM system. So if you have hearing aids with Auracast, you walk in or with your earbuds and you use your app and then you find the broadcast right on the app, you click it and the Auracast broadcast will appear in your devices. But if you don't have Auracast but you have Telecoils, you pick up a receiver with neck loops. And this is Williams AV, another well-known company that's also making an Auracast system for assistive listening. So if Auracast can be used with neck loops, having a telecoil, if you're hard of hearing, is critical, is essential, right? So you need a T-coil in your cochlear implant or in your hearing aids. And by the way, consumer organizations have been pleading for years to include telecoils. These petitions have gone back since 2009. Please, manufacturers, would you put telecoils in the hearing aids? Please don't remove telecoils. The latest declaration dates back to last fall. The EFO, the European Federation for the Hard of Hearing, the Budapest Declaration dates back to Budapest in 2022. And a lot of these organizations have undersigned these petitions, but for example, HLAA has not undersigned a declaration that states, wait a minute, consumers need it all, right? But the Canadian Hard of Hearing Association has, by the way, as ALDA is in the process of evaluating, and so is FHO. So any pressure that you can put on the national organization to support this type of declaration, because at this point, that declaration is speaking up for all people who are hard of hearing around the world. Here's another new undertaking by FHO. They call it the Hands Off Our Telecoil campaign, and vice versa. HLAA is not undersigning that initiative by FHO either. So I'll leave it at that. So ADA access hearing aids, that's what we've called them. We, as consumer advocates, I am absolutely convinced that for the next 10 years, you are going to need devices that have telecoils and Auracast. And it's best if the T-coil is inside the hearing aid and the Auracast is inside the hearing aid and not in a remote control. And again, we prefer that they are push button ready. So
Excuse
where
me,
do you...
Dr.
Yes.
Excuse me, Dr. Sterkens, I just wanted to give you the time. It's now
Yep.
10:46.
I'm going to put on my running shoes. I need 5 more minutes. How about that? These ADA access ready hearing aids that have telecoils and Auracast, can be found here or by taking a photo of this. I'm just going to move this so maybe you can take a picture of it. And there is a whole list of different hearing aids that have both technologies built in and can be found on this Center for Hearing Access.org website. And in my opinion, we need to all speak up with our providers that we want this technology. Now, telecoils have been in hearing aids for 60, 70 years. They are very energy efficient. They work. They can sound great if the hearing loop meets the standard, and they work the world over. So just a little plug for hearing loops. They can be found in theaters, hundreds of theaters around the country, but also around the world. Even large manufacturers are using hearing loops in their facilities or in their auditory training or auditoriums. And where do you find hearing loops? Well, you find them here at the Center for Hearing Access under your state. So again, if you take a picture, it'll take you right to the website. So another way to find hearing loops is on Google Maps. This might be the time to open up your smartphone and literally type in a name of a facility. In this case, it's the community church in Hamilton in Canada. When you are on that site, you can, when you are on Google Maps, underneath the photos, you will see the word about right here where my mouse is. When you click on about, you'll see the feature accessibility pop up. And under accessibility, it says assistive hearing loop. And if there is no assistive hearing loop, you can literally update this place and tell Google that, hey, wait a minute, there is a loop where I am. And here is the app on your telephone. It's free. It's super useful anytime you go someplace. But the critical point here is in Google Maps, under the facility, go to About, and then to Accessibility. Now, I'm going to skip over this for sake of time. I promised that I would give you a little bit more information of where to find information about how to complain. Because if you're in this lecture and you've gone to a play and have found out that they don't offer assistive technology, you're not the first person. And the Center for Hearing Access has a huge number of templates that you can use direct from the website to write your letter to the facility. If you follow the steps, the first letter you write, the second letter you can write, you can inquire about the type of technologies you offer. But I highly, highly recommend the Center for Hearing Access.org/templates. So, and if you're traveling, again, look here on the website under places where you can find the different hearing loops that are installed around the country. All right. And just in closing, assistive listening systems are in this quick guide showing the different types of systems and how they work for people with hearing loss. And you're going to find at the moment that Auracast is still very much in development and is still not where we would like it to be, but hopefully in the next 2, 3, 4 years that is going to happen. Assistive listening systems can make a huge difference, help people hear better. I'm sure you've been in places where they've had them and where they've worked, and it can make all the difference in hearing nothing or hearing every word that's being said. So is it about telecoils or Auracast? No. It's about telecoils and Auracast. You need to demand them from your providers. If you're in the market for new hearing aids, get new ones that have both. If you're looking to replace your smartphone, make sure your smartphone is Auracast ready. It may need a firmware update or a software update, but at this point, I wouldn't buy anything until you have that assurance from Apple that that's the case. And if you don't have hearing aids yet, obtain Auracast compatible earbuds. I have a whole lot of resources here that I'm going to skip over. I was going to give you my email address, and you know what? It's not there. We're going to stop sharing, and I am going to put my email in the chat. How about that? Tim, can you do that? Just, oh, here it is. It's jsterkens at hearingloss.org. So if you have questions that we don't get to today, email me and I'm happy to try and help you. Hey, Malik, good to see you. It's been a long time. I'll open it up for questions. I'm sorry I took all this time. It was just a lot of stuff to go through.
Does anyone have a question for Dr. Sterkens? A question, comment? Please raise your hand.
Leslie?
Leslie,
Yes,
go
I'm
ahead.
curious. Do most of the hearing aid manufacturers now include in all their newer models Auracast compatibility?
Nope.
Why not?
I think they're still gearing up. There is no standard. There is no standard for assistive listening. That's number
Would,
one. I think the manufacturers are kind of wanting to put this in their top of the line technology in the hopes perhaps that people will pay more money for a higher technology level. I don't know. There are manufacturers who are really just waiting and seeing. Phonak is very much focused on the Rogers technology. And really, at this point, the only technology that we have with every brand, make, model hearing aid around the world is a telecoil. Leslie, I
but,
wish it was easier.
but it sounds like if the technology isn't really there, maybe the manufacturers, it's too dangerous for them to put something in that might not work.
And I've had manufacturers say things would work in hearing aids, only for me as a professional to find out that hearing aids couldn't communicate with each other in people who had very large heads. I mean, I'm not kidding you. But you don't find that out until you put hearing aids on people's ears, and this hearing aid kept saying, ding, ding, hearing aids missing. Well, it wasn't missing. This particular gentleman in my practice had a very large head. I mean, there was nothing I could do about it, right? So I had to turn features off in his brand new hearing aids, features that were important, that the manufacturer so told me they were important, but otherwise it would kept giving the patient a signal, a warning signal that the hearing aid was lost. I mean, how crazy is this? We don't know what's going to happen with Auracast and little antennas in little hearing aids. It's just going to take time. Time will tell. But the industry, in my opinion, has been pushing this too soon. And I
So
see a
Anna
lot
has
of
a
nodding
question.
heads.
Anna has a question. She has her hand up. Anna, unmute. We can't hear you.
If I only had a quarter for every time we've said that. We can't hear you, Anna.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I have, first of all, thank you so much for speaking with us, Juliet.
You're welcome.
When I saw what was going to be talked about, I've been waiting for this because I try to advocate, tell people hearing aids are not a fixing, they just amplify volume. And we can't hear you when you're away from us. They don't solve anything. My parents, I grew up, by the way, they thought, oh, it's like glasses. You put them on, they fix. No, what's damaged and lost is gone and it's gone. So that's why I'm in the group with all of you guys today. And by the way, I got new hearing aids, Phonak. Tim, one of our members, actually said he loved them and recommended to give it a try because they were available to me. I'm still getting used to and adjusting to them, by the way. But I have a question specifically for that. So I asked them when I was getting these ordered if I can do T-coil because all of you guys members were saying that's what's available now. And if I want to have it at meetings directly, my hearing aids via Bluetooth, pay the extra and get it done. So then they were telling me there's no need for it because Phonak has automatically Auracast. And then I thought, well, is it now available? And they're like, well, you have to ask around if it's around. And it was like just a cycle, basically, to put in a short term. So is it I don't know if it's too late now to go.
No, it's not too late. First of all, the hearing aid manufacturers, Anna, will take hearing aids back up to 90 days. I don't know if there's audiologists in this group, but the louder you complain, the more likely you'll be able to return your hearing aids and say you want a set of hearing aids that are Auracast and Telecoil compatible. Oticon come to mind.
These are, but can I ask my audiology office, say, can you temporarily, because I have another pair that's good, temporarily take them out to add the T-coil?
You cannot, Phonak at this moment, depending on the type of Phonak hearing aid you've gotten, are not including telecoils in their RIC hearing aids, RIC. Those are the wire hearing aids that fit behind the ear and have the wire, not the tube. If you have a tube hearing aid, there's a really good chance you have the telecoil, but I'm unaware that Phonak is Auracast compatible. Don't rely on what I'm telling you.
For phone, just so you see how they.
Win, do you want to say anything about this, or are you? Um,
Oh, sorry, said it again. Did I ask them about it? Yeah, I did.
So this is Win. I'm just jumping in from Juliet. So Phonak right now, from what we're kind of getting this sense, is that they are only doing Auracast. They are not putting a telecoil inside the instrument itself. And so it becomes a decision as far as what you think you need today and where you are going. And that future proofing that Juliet is saying, future proofing is not only your community now, but are you going to travel? Might you move? How can you get all of that access? And I'd like to just suggest that you go, I put a link to all the hearing aids that have both, and you talk to your audiologist, and I'm seeing two other hands, and I know we're tight on time. So
Yes.
I'm happy
Yes.
to stay on, but I don't know what your policy is and if you want to cut off the recording.
Well, we are going to take Kenneth and Terry's questions, and that will conclude our meeting.
All
So
right.
I'm going to thank Dr. Sterkens for this wonderful presentation. I'm going to thank everyone for showing up this morning, and we're happy to see you. And again, Um, this meeting has been recorded. You will get an email so that you can review it again and check out our Facebook page, our Instagram, and you will be able to find this information. And again, thank you, Dr. Sterkens. We'll hear from Kenneth and Terry, and that will conclude today's meeting. Thank you,
Sounds
everyone.
good. Thank
Kenneth.
you.
Thank you, Juliet. Question I have is, the companies are talking about AI integrated into their hearing aids for improving speech in noise. And I wonder if this is new information, new progress that may not have been captured by the earlier study showing not much improvement with better hearing aids.
It's possible.
What are your thoughts?
It's very possible. I want to see data, and I would like to see consumer data, meaning how are consumers evaluating the performance of these hearing aids? And I want to see data that is not completed by the hearing aid industry itself. Because the studies that you are seeing from HIA and Market Track are done by the hearing aid industry, not by independent researchers.
What
My
about
own opinion.
hearingtracker.com? Isn't that a
Yeah,
pretty reliable group?
that's
Hearing
pretty
Tracker.
reliable.
So they're
It's
talking about new developments. Yeah.
yeah, they are. They are. Is it possible, Ken, that it's going to help people with milder to moderate loss? We don't know how it's going to work for people with more severe hearing loss and poorer speech understanding. You know, they are marketing to the big, bottom 2/3 of the pyramid, so to speak, right? But you
Yeah.
guys are all in the tippy top of the pyramid. I don't know if you're following me, but I can send you some links to that as well.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Terry.
Hi, Dr. Sterkens. Thank you so much for this amazingly informational
You're welcome.
presentation today. You're so knowledgeable. I am a new cochlear implant recipient, and I'm about 3.5 months in from activation. My question to you is, at whenever that critical mass hits and more instruments are being Auracast ready, for a cochlear implant, would that mean just a programming update, or would that mean new hardware, like a new processor? How would that work?
I'm not an expert on cochlear implants. I understand the cochlear brand is compatible. I would hope that the new Medel model that just came out or has just been approved is compatible. I don't know about AB.
Yeah, that's what I have, baby.
Yeah. Now, it's
Okay.
very possible that you'll be able to somehow link this up through a smartphone so that your smartphone can receive the signal and broadcast it to your processor. When that happens, there's always a little bit of a delay. But it's going to be better than nothing at all. And I would hope that you have a telecoil in your processor. So yes, you'll be able
Yeah.
to use Auracast with a neck loop and an Auracast receiver.
And there's
So
nothing more frustrating to me than I have a lot of people in my communities outside of HLA know that I've hearing loss, and I've worn hearing aids for many years, and they're starting to get older. They're getting hearing aids, and the number one thing I tell them is to make sure you're getting, a telecoil, and they go to their audiologist and specifically request a telecoil, and then they have a similar situation as what Anna was showing about. They will tell them no. Telecoils are old technology. We don't do those anymore, and you don't need it. And it's so frustrating to me that they're
this
not
is
aware
old.
of loops. And
This is old technology. The
yeah,
Romans were using wine glasses, all right? And I'm still using a glass too.
right?
So go to the website that Win put in the chat. There's a whole list of hearing aids. Tell your friends you needed both. You don't need one, you don't need the other, you need both.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there are companies that have standard telecoils. Oticon is one of them. Starkey is doing lots of telecoils with, and now starting to integrate Auracast.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much
Speak up.
for the
Don't take
questions.
it. And I would push the national organizations to support the fact that consumers need both, and they need to support the initiatives in Europe and as much as they need to support initiatives in this country. All right.
Thank you,
for having
everyone.
me.
Thank you so much.
My
Have a
pleasure.
wonderful
My
weekend.
pleasure. Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye.